Greetings, and welcome to Wellspring Community Church. I'm Wendy Musgrave, the pastor at Wellspring, and I am delighted to have you gathering with us this morning virtually. We're continuing on in our Easter season because Easter isn't just one day. Easter is God's message, the message of God's desire for us to live fully each day. The early church practiced their hope by spending time together in the temple, by breaking bread at home, eating food with glad and generous hearts, and praising God and having goodwill for all the people. We create a temple in our hearts as we worship that connects us across boundaries, distance, and time. As we share in worship, we stay connected because at the heart of the matter, we are connected through the Spirit that makes us one in love. I invite you now, if you have a candle nearby, to light it. We're going to take a few moments just to center ourselves in the presence of God. As we begin, I invite you to take a deep breath. I invite you to place your hand on your heart and just breathe. Feel the rhythm of your heart. Holy and living God, heartbeat of creation, help us to take this time to center in your presence. For you have made us, you gave us life, and you continue to be with us in every moment. With every breath. And in every step. Let us take another deep breath and just release any tension that we may feel in our bodies, letting the tension go with each breath. I invite you to pick up your heart stone, sometimes called a worry stone, and let our touch on its surface remind us that God's touch is within us, between us, and around us. As close and as real as this object is in our hands right now, is how close love is to us always. Let us imagine letting go of our worries for now into God's heart of love. Now let's just set our heart stones near our candle so that they can be bathed in the light of Christ. Holy One, we offer into your care today all of our worries and our fears and our anxieties. We turn to you and we know that you are near. Your light is our love and life. Today, we are going to share a story about a meal that Jesus attended. Because it happened in an unexpected way, listen for how the people didn't even recognize him at first. It took sitting down to the table for people to realize that the Christ was still with them. Every time we gather around a table, we can recognize that Christ is with us, inside each of us, every time, with us when we gather together in love sharing a meal together. Let us pray. Holy and surprising God, we gather in your name, invited by Jesus, bound together with your Spirit in union with each other. Feed our bodies and our spirits with your comforting presence, so that we might be your comfort to others. Bless this food and break open our hearts. Bless this drink and pour out your love. Amen. And now, if you have breakfast or a snack or a cup of coffee with you, I invite you to just pick something up off of your table, hold it in your hands, and let's say together the words that are at the heart of the matter every time we offer blessings at our table. We are grateful. Let us begin to break bread together while we break open the word of our scriptures. Our gospel passage for today tells a story of a surprise visit from Jesus on the road to Emmaus. Hear how the story unfolds in the Gospel of Luke. On that same day, 2 disciples were traveling to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking to each other about everything that had happened. While they were discussing these things, Jesus arrived and joined them on their journey. They were prevented from recognizing him. He said to them, "What are you talking about as you walk along?" They stopped, their faces downcast. The one named Cleopas replied, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who is unaware of the things that have taken place there over the last few days?" He said to them, "What things?" They said to him, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth. Because of his powerful deeds and words, he was recognized by God and all the people as a prophet. But our chief priests and our leaders handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. We had hoped he was the one who would redeem Israel. All these things happened 3 days ago. But there's more. Some women from the group left us stunned. They went to the tomb early this morning and they didn't find his body. They came to us saying that they had seen a vision of angels who told them he is alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found things just as the women said. They didn't see him." Then Jesus said to them, "Oh, you foolish people, your dull minds keep you from believing all that the prophets talked about. Wasn't it necessary for the Christ to suffer those things and then enter into glory?" Then he interpreted for them the things written about himself in the scriptures, starting with Moses and going through all the prophets. When they came to Emmaus, he acted as if he was going on ahead, but they urged him, saying, "Stay with us. It's nearly evening and the day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. After he took his seat at the table with them, he took the bread, blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to them. Their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, but he disappeared from their sight. They said to each other, "Weren't our hearts on fire when he spoke to us along the road, and when he explained the scriptures for us?" They got up right then and returned to Jerusalem. They found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying to each other, "The Lord really has risen. He appeared to Simon." Then the 2 disciples described what had happened along the road and how Jesus was made known to them as he broke the bread. I've often heard it said that the way to someone's heart is through their stomach. At our house, nothing says love quite like grandma bread. Grandma bread was developed by my mom over the course of several years of experimenting with how to make an entirely whole grain loaf of bread that was soft and yummy. It was a process of trial and error to develop, but believe me, grandma bread is soft and yummy. Each bite tastes like a little piece of heaven. It's made with whole wheat flour and flax and olive oil and honey and all kinds of wholesome ingredients. When my mom bakes this bread for communion at her church, she has been asked if it would be possible to substitute grape jelly for the grape juice the next time around. It is that good. Often she will gift us with a loaf when she visits, and when we go to visit her, we can expect to find some waiting for us. But I wanted to learn how to make this bread myself. When I first asked her for the recipe, she said, well, it's about 7 to 10 cups of flour. What? This is not a test kitchen approved recipe, clearly. Could you narrow it down? I asked her. And she said, I don't know. I just feel it. And she does feel it. And we can taste the love in every bite. But it makes the recipe a little hard to replicate. I've been feeling my way through this process of my own discovery. A few years ago, I was talking on the phone with my mom, probably asking her a question about baking this bread, and afterwards, Greta said to me, oh, grandmas make the best food. And I said, oh, I know it, they do. It's like you can taste the love. And then Greta said to me, you'll be a grandma too someday, Mom. And I said, oh, yes, honey, I hope someday. And I was feeling all warm and fuzzy on the inside. I was thinking that she was going to say, and you'll make delicious food for my kids too. And then she said, I feel really sorry for my kids. They're going to think that this is grandma bread, but it is not. I was deflated. I've been working on and off on my bread, and my bread is getting there. I'm feeling it, and it is a labor of love. I found myself wanting to bake bread during this time of quarantine. There's just something about the process of creating something with your hands, kneading it, forming loaves. The smell of yeast and baking bread reminds me of my childhood. It reminds me of the people I love, whom I can't be near at this time. I am reminded of our connection that quarantine can never sever through the baking and the tasting of grandma bread. I've been wanting to bake bread, and from the looks of the shelves at the grocery store, I am not alone. There are yeast shortages. It appears that in all of the stocking up, people were filling their carts with hand sanitizer and toilet paper, and also yeast and flour. There is something very rewarding about baking bread. It feels like getting back to basics. I think it kind of feeds those nesting instincts that I have from time to time. It feels like drawing our loved ones close. I've been thinking about how we can taste the love in certain foods that remind us of our loved ones. They say that the way to someone's heart is through their stomach. And that is a really curious window into our passage from the gospel today. In the story from Luke today, the disciples were walking along the road, having a conversation, and they were full of lament and sorrow and fear. These followers of Jesus had heard the bad news, and they were devastated. They had come into Jerusalem expecting something, following a leader they believed in, only to have that story unfold in such a tragic way. So the two were walking along and discussing when our passage from Luke says that Jesus walks up alongside of them and asks them what they're talking about. Why the sad faces? The eyes of the disciples were prevented from recognizing Jesus. And so the response is kind of funny when you think about it. Wouldn't you have loved to see the faces of these disciples as they answer this question? Who is this guy? And where has he been? I kind of imagine the response might be one like something we might receive now if you walked up beside someone and said, "What is this virus that you're talking about?" The disciples knew that this was big news, devastating news. How could he not have heard this? And so they proceeded to relay the facts of the matter to their seemingly uninformed travel partner. They had heard that the tomb was empty, but they didn't know what to make of this. Of course, as readers of the gospel, we know that Jesus then proceeds to reframe the story from one in which the tomb was the end of the story to a story in which the tomb becomes the womb to new life. There is more to come. They invite Jesus to stay with them, and together they gather and share a meal. Now remember, they have spent an afternoon walking together, discussing really deep things, the heart of the matter, and yet it isn't until they share the meal that they recognize that they are in the presence of the risen Jesus. Wow. The crazy thing is that they had been in the presence of the holy all along, but completely unaware. I've loved that the weather this week has allowed me to get outside and do some walking. So alone on my walks this week, I've been figuratively walking with these disciples on the road to Emmaus. The disciples were not looking for Jesus along the road, and Luke tells us that their eyes were prevented from recognizing his presence. That part's always been so curious to me. How could they not recognize the friend and leader that they were mourning? It's had me wondering, what obvious things have my eyes been prevented from seeing? What important things have I missed that have been right in front of me all along? I love how it is in the common elements, those common elements that are so important in the traditions of the Christian faith: water, bread, wine. Simple, basic things are important symbols that point us to the holy that is all around us and within us. In the Christian tradition, it is the ordinary that the holy is most profoundly revealed within. After the disciples recognized the risen Jesus through the sharing of a meal, he disappeared from their sight, leaving the disciples in amazement. When the disciples were processing this amazing experience they just had, they asked themselves, weren't our hearts on fire as we walked along the road with Jesus? I wanted to notice, has my heart been on fire? What have I missed? The disciples had been prevented from seeing. What prevents me from seeing the light of Christ in those around me? I know a big one of these things for me is being so busy. I care deeply about people and I try to be intentional in my actions, and yet I don't always take time to notice the spark of the holy in the stranger. It's hard to read this passage and not think about Matthew 25, where Jesus says, I assure you that when you have done these things for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you have done them for me. So I wonder, when have our hearts been on fire? Who have we overlooked? How might the unprecedented time that we are living within allow us to see those things that were previously not visible for us? Are there any things that we have been prevented from seeing that are all of a sudden becoming clear for us now during this time? What gifts might lie in this awareness? I invite you now to put both hands on your heart and close your eyes just for a moment and think about a message of love. Then reach out and connect your hands with those with whom you are gathered around your table. If you're alone, reach out your hands and imagine two people on either side of you who you want to offer love to right now. You can reach out with a text or a phone call later and let them know that you are thinking about them and sending your love in this moment. In this moment, we let this gesture plant the seeds of love straight from our hearts. It's a really difficult moment not to be near the people that we love and whom we might be worried about. So let's take a moment to lift up in our hearts or to say out loud the names of people that we wish were right next to us right now. As we name them, they are present in our hearts. We also want to call to mind those who perhaps we don't know their names. We don't know them, but we know of their need for love and God's comfort. For all of those who have lost loved ones. For all who are sick and recovering. For those who are caring for loved ones who are sick at home. And for all of the caregivers who are caring for people in the medical field. For those who are separated from loved ones. For those who are feeling isolated and alone. For all who are helping and are also so very tired. For all of those whose homes are full of people, but their pantries are empty. For all who are struggling to find friends and food and comfort. For all of those who are afraid. Let us take another breath of spirit as our Amen. What a comfort it is to know that as we send out our prayers, the Spirit breath of God is blowing from within us outward as a spirit of compassion and presence. Praise and thanks be to the God of love that connects us all together. Will you pray this prayer with me now? We know that Jesus is present among us, even in this very home. We will not let fear be louder than love, but with glad hearts and rejoicing souls, we will sing God's praise, for we are Easter people. Our Easter series is called The Heart of the Matter, and I have found myself looking for hearts lately. I know that several of you do this as well. This week, Becky sent me this photo of the potato that she was peeling on Sunday. What an unexpected inbreaking of love. Maynard sent me an image of his collection of heart-shaped rocks that he's collected along his journeys. The smallest one he carries with him all the time. I've had my eyes opened to hearts around me this week. I found a heart in the crack of a sidewalk. I found a heart in the dandelions, in the weeds of all places. They've been cutting down trees in my neighborhood lately to make way for a sidewalk that leads to the park. It is a good thing, and it is going to make things much safer for people who are out running and walking and enjoying the park. But they have cut down some beautiful, mature trees. I've been lamenting the loss of these trees that really drew me to this neighborhood. I've been kind of sad. There's an area near the walking trail that I frequent where they put all the logs and limbs and wood chips from the trees. This week, I found a heart in the cut logs from one of those lovely trees. I was lamenting a dead tree when the tomb became the womb, and I found peace knowing that the loss of these trees is making way for new life in community space. These hearts have given me so much to ponder this week. There is beauty and love and resurrection promise to be found in what has been broken, in what is often seen as an annoying weed, and even in things that have been cut down. In what ordinary things have you seen beauty and love and resurrection promise this week? Keep sending me your images of hearts or light or peace or joy. The love that I can taste in grandma bread helps me to recognize the connection that I have to my loved ones. I pray that in this time of social distancing, you are experiencing the holy in ordinary ways, in the baking and breaking of bread, in the meals shared around your tables at home, in a walk along the road. As we close our time together today, remember, God is always with you, no matter what you face, no matter what trials or hardships come your way. God is right beside you, offering you love and peace straight from the heart, guiding and directing your path. So acknowledge your fear and your worry as it arises, and know that it is as true and as holy as any other feeling, including love and joy and hope. Take heart. This is the heart of the matter. Go in peace. Amen.